I just have to record this. This is just amazing to me. Um, okay, I'm busy worrying about this screen. So one of the things that I'm hearing and that it makes so much sense, right? Sometimes when you're going through everything that you're going through, it doesn't make sense to you. You don't understand it. And then when you're trying to, deal with issues of trauma and process childhood wounds and um, heal your feminine and your masculinity along with that with other feminine and masculine energies around you like your father and your mother and children and things of that nature. When you're in the I'm hearing when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to see anything clearly, and then sometimes it's even hard to put it into words. Like, you're feeling all these emotions, you're going through all these shifts and these turns and these twists, but you can't necessarily look. What's that? The fire engine, right? um, I just heard ring the alarm. I'll be damned if I let another chick be on your arm, right? So it's more of a I'm not thinking of an outside female or for me to singing that to a man. It was more of myself singing it to myself and the other chick being the mask chick, right? The persona I had to um and I don't know, I just heard not had to, but that I delved into due to, as a means of survival, right? The things that we do to try to cope with the trauma, right? They're labeled as ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And then, it wasn't just the childhood ones. Because of those childhood ones, I picked up new ones or added to them, through my teenage years and my adult years, because once you get into a specific mode of thinking or you understand things from a certain perspective, until you learn better, when what they say, when you learn know better, you do better. But until then, you still making um well, I can only speak for me, was making decisions based on, misinformation or distorted information, right? And that doesn't make me a bad person or horrible, but that's just a reality. And then when you have couple that with a community and a family who also is in the thick of it, and then uh, it just, it's real. Let's just put it that way. It's really real. So all of that to say that I've noticed that it's been both an internal war inside of me, between my masculine and feminine, and learning to reconnect with my feminine back to that, ring the alarm, I'd be damned if I. So that's just to me personally, but then I also saw how it impacted my relationships with women in general, but more specifically and most importantly to me, the relationship with like the women that I loved and were most important to me, like my mother and then my daughter. And then, now having a granddaughter, and of course with my own daughter, I refuse to, not have that bond, not have that connection, that true, whole, intimate connection with them, because I'm unable to truly connect with the femininity in me, which then, and also with my own mother. So, out of that desire to wanting to mend all that, you know, yeah, work needed to be done, awareness needed to be had. And I wanted to make this recording because one of the things is just, I just really want to keep a log. It's so significant to me with my ancestors and guides, and divinity wants me to make it aware, to not let this time go by without acknowledging what is currently happening. So it is very significant that in this month of March 2024, when a lot of the religions around the world and divinatory practices and rituals are aligning, it seems like there's this powerful, for me, particularly because of my depth, or curiosity and knowledge into the particularly the three Abrahamic religions. They're saying no, because it's not limited to that for me. I have expanded, and I am very much have embraced and have came back home to. I don't know what to necessarily call it. Okay, they saying call it ancestral veneration, remembering, right? To remember, and then for me, remember goes all the way back to the story of Isis and Horus, and how she looked for the different members of his body and remembered them together, right? Put them back together, and he came back to life. Then I'm thinking of Yeshua, Jesus, right? How that resurrection, right? And so, anyway, the power that is currently happening and the significance of how, this weekend my mother was hospitalized. And I won't get into all of it. But the point was, well, not the point. One of the outcomes that I noticed, and I've saw that there's been this progression. God has shown me that there's this progression about it. But one of the things that I became keenly aware today come on, big boy, in and yesterday, and spending time with her and being with her all day Friday at the hospital, and then today all day. There's been a click, something connected. We've connected on such a deep level, something that has not happened. When I tried to explain to my daughter, I actually said 40 years. It felt like the last time I felt that motherly love, that connection with my mother in terms of like a full embrace from her, a real good hug and love, might have been about 8, 9 years old. So it's been very emotional in a very good way. And I admitted even to my daughter that I know what I'm feeling. I've really, in the last, I'm here in 6 months, particularly since the last Lionsgate portal, and it was exacerbated in October when I broke up in the relationship that I was in. This sense of receiving, this sense of really stepping into my femininity, but almost to the femininity that then accepted the masculinity. And it's almost like, because I've entered into this femininity, my masculinity has submitted, right? There's this I'm hearing synergy. I heard synopsis first, but there's this ebb and flow between them. And then the picture that I got in my mind was that scene in 300 where right before he kicks the ambassador of Xerxes into their pit, he looks over at his wife for acknowledgement, I want to say validation, but it's almost like they saying it's okay to say validation, because what I felt when I see that is not that he's submitting to her or that she's ruling over him. I felt that, I really very much looked at the Empress and the intuition and the High Priestess. So all of the beautiful qualities of the feminine, and what she I want to say encourages, but encompasses as well, what she embraces, what she carries within, right? She's the womb. It was at that moment that all that femininity carries in terms of intuition, right? Empathy, this vastness and this complete full potential to hold this empathy and this compassion and this love. And I'm hearing this space for another. It is, when it's in sync within ourselves, when that feminine aspect of ourselves, and then it's also in sync with that masculine aspect of ourselves, right? The emperor, when it's not a toxic emperor, right? When it's an emperor that is cares about the kingdom that it is overseeing, and is fair and just and honest and has integrity and character and morals and values, and believes in source and taps into that source. When that is all aligned in that way, then it can better correspond and work with and tangent with back and forth with its mass with the feminine, right? And it's this, I'm hearing this yin and yang, this ebb and flow, this infinity, this Ouroboros, that continually feeds into itself over and over again. This life, death, rebirth cycle that is able to happen because they're finally in tune and in flow of one another. You know, she knew he was the one who had the strength to go out and be on the front line and to wage the war and carry it. So she knew her validating him, what that meant. And he knew looking to her to see if this was the appropriate time, right? All of this had real, consequences I've had, right? But they were both in their fullness of themselves and their capacity, her and her femininity, him and his masculinity, that together they were able to forge forward and make this decision that they felt was best for them. And I began to then think of it from the outside. And then I heard this, I'm listening to this YouTuber, this young girl, and she talked about the pile that I picked me, this pile that I picked being one that has this gift to really hold. She didn't say hold space, but that's how I'm hearing this empathic gift that is really loving and nurturing and also very self-aware. But if not balanced, can be not just a blessing but a curse. So the self-awareness part is I hear that, I know that for me. I know that I become so self-aware in my mind that I can become critical because I am very much attuned to what I say, what I do, how I react, which is a great gift, right? But if I scrutinize it and don't allow for any grace for myself, it can become a curse. And the same thing with empathy and nurturing and being a caregiver. It's a beautiful blessing when you can hold space for another, right? When you can be empathetic and loving in that way, right? But when you overgive and pour it all out and leave no reserve. I'm thinking I had a Saab, this car called, a Saab, Saab. And I remember it was the first time I ever had a Saab, and this Saab had a reserve tank. And, most of the cars I had owned prior to it, I was young. I was in my early 20s, like 26, 24. So prior to that, I never... Excuse me, my throat is interesting. But I didn't have an experience ever with a foreign car that had a reserve tank. But that's what I'm hearing now. If you don't leave any of this in reserve, and if you're not, I want to say careful, but it's not careful, wise, right? There's a certain sense of wisdom that understands that when and where. It's kind of like I'm hearing a jujitsu master or a boxer, right? Oh, and now I'm even hearing a doctor with the Hippocratic Oath, right? To understand that you do no harm, that you have this power and this ability to heal, but the wisdom that comes, now I'm hearing with great power comes great responsibility, because there is this great responsibility, because you do have to, now I'm hearing the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? To know when do I cast my pearls, right? To know not to cast them amongst swine, because they will trample them and then turn around and walk away from you. And again, it's not, we use those scriptures and it's always, not always, but mostly when I've heard it is to, condemn the swine that's trampled them. And then we correlate that swine to an individual. But, oh God, I almost lost it. It's not justifying their behavior, but it's knowing that, accepting, I'm hearing that, because there was a time, and even now in my physical form and where I'm at in my life, there's something I cannot accept. There's an area in my life I'm stubborn about, or I'm not willing to look at this moment in time. So an individual who's dealing with me from whatever that angle may be may choose to say, yo, she's not ready. And it is not my responsibility to play God or to try to coerce her or change her. So it's not so much downing me or putting me down for it, is accepting that, this individual, whether it's friend, family, or foe, a co-worker, a partner, or whatever, they're not ready at this point. At this point in their life, for whatever reasons, it may be an array of reasons, different variables, are not ready to either accept or change what you, the other individual, may believe may be best for them, or what would, in your mind, make your relationship more synchronized or whatever. And it is then knowing then to say when to pull back, or then not to no longer pour. But I know me, because of some of the ACEs, the childhood trauma and the abandonment and the rejection that I experienced, particularly around the male figures in my life. And then also with my mother to a certain, yes, and also with my mother. Again, both of them in very different ways. I chose to then not know how to let go, to want to control things for my own sense of security. So I thinking that I was, even the illusion of even controlling is absurd now when I look at it in hindsight. But also, not knowing when to let go, right? I didn't necessarily know when to let go. I just didn't, or if I did, I just refused to. I became very stubborn and very resolute. No, this is my mother, or no, this is my father, or no, this is my husband, or no, this is my child, or no, this is my best friend since whatever. But no matter who it is, when we begin to act with self betrayal, right? Betray ourselves, when we begin to deplete our tank, and even our reserve tank, that isn't good. And I heard, and a true friend, a true lover, a true partner, a true parent wouldn't want you to do that. You know what I mean? I'm reminded of a situation one time at my job. One of the timekeepers said, Marilyn, I'm the timekeeper. If you need me to help, your time is getting low. I don't want you to get in trouble. If you need me to kind of like finagle the numbers for you a little bit, so that, you can make it through the year or whatever. And she offered. I didn't say yay or nay, but I just walked away, and I'm like, oh, okay, and then immediately I was convicted. And I remember, going to my desk, and then immediately, I don't even know if I made it all the way back to my desk. And my desk was not even like 5 feet away from her, 6. But I went back into the room, I closed the door, and I said, excuse me, Miss So-and-so, I appreciate what you offered, because I believe you're offering it as, out of friendship and thinking in your mind that you're assisting me, but I can't allow you to do that, because if I am truly your friend, I would never want you to jeopardize your job, because if this is found out, you too, not only will I, suffer consequences, but so will you. And that's not, I don't think that that's what friendship is. True friendship would never allow each other to put ourselves in places and spaces that would put our livelihood or anything, our health, our mental health, whatever it is, in jeopardy in any kind of way. So thank you, but no thank you. I do consider your friendship, and as a result, I wouldn't want to jeopardize that in any way for you or for me over, essentially decisions I made. That was my time. And if I wasn't being prudent with my time and monitoring and ensuring that, that was my issue. Now I'm hearing Jonah, there came a point where those on the ship, they cast lots and they found out, hold up, this trouble we're having at sea right now is because of Jonah. And at first, they didn't want to throw him off. They threw the cargo and everything off, and they saw that didn't work. And then, they grappled with throwing him off. But eventually, they did, right? They had to throw him overboard. I even think Jonah said, yeah, throw me overboard. You would have to read the scripture for yourself. I don't remember it verbatim, but, sometimes there's certain people who the storm or God is after them, and you're feeling the repercussions of their misalignment or choices or misjudgment or whatever it is, And that's what I'm saying. I didn't know how to throw the Jonas overboard. I tried and desperately tried. I kept trying to plug up the holes and trying to everything to hold on to for dear life, almost to win the hole where I also went down with the ship. And I'm hearing no mas, right? There's no need for that. I don't have to be this martyr. I don't have to do this self-sacrificial um act. If I do believe in faith and in divinity, I don't if yeah, Jesus did it all. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to go there or whatever, if that's what you believe in, what you adhere to. But even if you're an atheist or an agnostic, right, it is this realization to say, no, we're all responsible for our own choices and our behaviors, and we all have the right to autonomy, right? Although you may think my behavior, isn't healthy for me, and it doesn't bring about great results for me, but maybe it is uh, sense of I'm hearing oh God, how can I say it? That works for me, whether it's for whatever reason, it works for me. And just because it doesn't work for you, and maybe you can even clearly see what I can't see, who am I to dictate what doesn't work for you? And uh, yeah, and it's been a long road for me to even be able to come to these conclusions and to think of it that way. And I'm not even trying to sit here and act like I got it together. I've accepted everything like that, and I'm able to let go. It is still, excuse me, very hard, particularly when it comes to those that I love dearly, that are close in proximity in terms of family. But one of the other things that I heard, that like, when you hear other speakers, like I said, they help articulate things, and then it begins, like, I hear all the synapses start firing up, right? Connecting and firing up. But one of the things in her saying that um, the ability of being able to be so empathic and hold so much space as a gift, you know, again, as a human, I tend to vacillate from one extreme to the other. And what I've been learning and trying in all aspects of my life is to really find this medium, this balance, right? To understand that it isn't black or white. There is much more gray. And the reason why sometimes, I've known for myself, I don't want to look at the gray or be in the because there's tension there, right? It's easy if it's packaged in one box or the other. But when you don't have it packaged that way, to live in that chaos, but the chaos is also where that chaos, there is also light and order. It's a tension. It's I'm hearing it's like two magnets that come together and then repel. That takes work. Okay, so I'm hearing the example. Imagine you in a pool and then constantly trying to hold a beach ball under the pool. You can do it, but when you get out of that pool, depending on how long you were doing it, you're gonna feel maybe the next day all your muscles. Like, I just had all your muscles, right? Because they were working, they were activated. You had to use all this and exert all this energy to actually maintain that ball there under the water. And I don't know if that's the greatest answer, because I can hear people saying, yeah, but that water needs to be released, or that ball needs to come back up or whatever. But yeah, there's ebb and flow to everything, right? There are some things that we repress, I'm hearing, all the way to the subconscious, that eventually do need to come up. But again, I'm hearing it's a beautiful thing, the way this mind and this body, right, work, and how it really is this living organism that just really wants to survive and protect itself. And it then again, when allowed, I'm hearing system thinking, like any system, when it's operating at full capacity and best capacity, right? Is the capacity best function? right? It's a beautiful thing. It's a really well oiled machine, I'm hearing. And the body, I'm hearing, keeps score. It regenerates itself. The brain has neuroplasticity. The body is able to, I'm hearing like Wolverine heal, and yeah, it's just a beautiful thing, man. It's really a beautiful thing. I can't so anyway, back to then seeing, it just hit me so beautifully to hear this thing of holding so much impact that in my mind by this point of my life felt like it's caused me so much pain. You know what I'm saying? Being able to hold so much space, and a lot of the times when you're the one that wants to be optimistic, when you're the one that wants to pour so much love into people, even sometimes when you're pouring love, they're angry at you, and you get hateful comments, and not so nice responses, and then sometimes a lot of people use it or take it from you, but then don't necessarily return it or even say thank you. A lot of the times you bear the burden of not having reciprocity, of not even a thank you at times, and but to hear it as a like I said, to hear it as a gift that way, it just really lit me up. And then she even suggested that it was a gift passed down from my ancestors. And then one of the questions I've been questioning this past week, because of another incident I had with my own son, is the women in our family and our inability to kind of like connect with these children. And for me, because of the trauma with my mother and my father, like I said, there was this inability in me to kind of connect with her on a deep, loving, like I knew I could say I love her, and I knew anything that happened to her or that impacted her would make me cry and would make me filled with concern. But I really lacked the ability like to have like intimacy with her, and then I heard into me see, right? And vice versa, right? For her to feel that she truly saw me and to truly see her. And I began to look at some of the other women in our family line, and I saw that there seemed to be a disconnect with them and their children, and yet they were also classified as very nurturing women, full of compassion and empathy, and able to hold a lot of space. But yet this disconnect still existed. So to hear that it may be a gift from the lineage, and yet us not really knowing how to embrace it, accept it, and work with it. It felt like more of, I felt relieved. It didn't feel, no longer as like this curse that we're doomed to. It's just, no, maybe just based on ignorance and not knowing, right? What to do with this gift and how to utilize it. And then, not understanding that we live in a world where, like I said, not everybody is at a place where they can accept such I'm hearing unconditional love, right? Without being distrustful of it themselves, or even taking it for granted. So when you keep getting a lot of that, that can change your perspective of something that's such a beautiful gift, and can turn into bitterness and anger, and yeah, a whole lot of other stuff. And numbing, particularly in my family, numbing became a big thing, whether it was through alcoholism or drugs, in other areas. But to hear it as a gift was just beautiful. It was like music to my ears, and I'm just so grateful for that young lady too. And although she's not explaining it or talking to me specifically, or me and my gifts specifically, because she's speaking to so many of us in YouTube land. But for me to be able to to pinpoint it and for it to resonate for me and for it to open up that understanding for me and my family. It just felt really beautiful, and I wanted to not lose this thought process and to kind of record it, particularly because it's in such a month where I feel there's such a, and I heard that this is a cataclysmic, a change or something that is happening in the atmosphere that is very holy and pure at this time. And then when she suggested that one of the things we should do is recharge and ground ourselves because we're able to pull in so much of other people's emotion and be and hold empathy and space for them. I thought of Jesus, of Isa alayhi salam, and how over and over again you would hear in the Gospels that he would leave and get away to the mountains and to be alone, right? And I heard that like that's the grounding, right? That's the recharge. Then I said, well, wow, right? Because as people, we tell stories, and whether you call them mythology or religion. So for those of you who maybe do not ascribe to Jesus being God, for one, a Muslim will say astaghfirullah, or for those who ascribe him to a prophet, or there's some who don't even think he existed at all. But if you just took the essence of what then he would be representing in terms of someone who had this gift to hold space, to care for those who would typically reject it and ignore, to give voice, right, to those that were marginalized and oppressed. You can go there too and leave it there if you don't want to take it from the and the dangers, right, of such choices, which is not odd for us to see even in this context, right? Not too long ago, Dr. King was assassinated, JFK was assassinated, Malcolm X, assalamu alaikum, was assassinated. And these men, just to name a few, I mean, and there's countless of others, and women, but these men in particular that we hold high in history, when we see the underpinning of what led, I'm hearing a Huey from the Black Panthers and others, right? As Cesar Chavez, all of these people were speaking out against injustices and standing up for the oppressed, the marginalized, right? Desiring change, speaking truth to power, right? And this power did not like that, right? So, we can spookify it and mystify it and all of that, or not. But the point remains that something was happening. Something was a stirring within them that created them to speak and see and feel the way that they did, to the point where their passion for it, they became tenacious and relentless to their death, unfortunately, even unto death, I heard. It's just very interesting, to say the least. So then, again, learning to balance this gift more moving forward, and to appreciate it and understand it as a gift, and to understand how it works internally with me, myself, and I individually, with my masculine and energy, my light and shadow, my yin and yang within me, and then also how that works outside of me with other masculine and feminine energies and this world, right, that I live in. So yeah, I just didn't want to lose those thoughts, and I thought it was powerful. Okay, I hope this is helping someone. I just wanted to say in closing, I wanted to give shout out to that young girl. One of the things that amazes me about the YouTube world, being an older woman of 49 years of age, and just seeing the courage, the tenacity. It takes courage to uh, put oneself in the public sphere, for one, to be scrutinized, right? Um, because it's not just praise you get, um, but to answer a calling, um, and become vulnerable, um, and just I'm at awe. I'm telling you, at the young and talented, beautiful people that have assisted me in so many ways in my own individual growth. Things that I might have had to pay thousands of dollars and sit for I don't know how many umpteen years in chairs of therapists and psychologists. I just bit my tongue. And I guess they're reminding me, because I don't want to make light of that, and I don't want to even act in any way. Yeah, I hear you. I need to be very responsible. Excuse me, confirmation. I have utilized therapy, and I have utilized professional services. They are very important, both in the medical and the mental field. And we should not disregard them or just totally cast them. Thank God for holistic and healing modalities, and thank God for divinatory practices um, that are not traditional and conventional, but also, for me, it all, we're all uniquely different, like the fingerprints, right? And we all have to utilize and ascribe and yeah, grab to whatever resource is best for us, and only we know that for ourselves. And thank God that there's so many, that there's such a plethora out there, right? But yeah, the young lady this time that I wanted to mention is called, her YouTube channel is called, I'm sorry, I keep pulling it up and then losing it. That's interesting. Her YouTube channel is called Our Spiritual Journey. And if I'm not mistaken, the reading was called What's Up Ahead, a pick a card. So I just wanted to do that in closing, is just to share that young lady, share her channel. And yeah, I wanted to close out with that. Maybe there's some messages there for other people, and they'll be blessed by her messages as I have been. And in that, I want to say Ashe, Amen, and Amin. And I hope you have a beautiful one on purpose.